Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our retirement living residence update.
Thanks, Richard, and hello, everybody. We just wanted to bring you all up to speed with the retirement living strategy priorities for this year. We've reviewed those priorities and we've introduced 5 new ones for this year. So we're looking at quality and consistency, growth, future of retirement living, supporting our residents and investing in our employees. Next slide, please. Just waiting for the slide to move over. Thank you. Thanks. So for quality and consistency, it's important to all of us that our schemes provide a safe and a secure environment for residents to live in. We want them all to be well presented and want them to be welcoming. And we want the teams that are working in those schemes, the local housing managers in the schemes, to be knowledgeable, to be professional, and to engage with all of our residents. We're ambitious and we want to grow. We want to expand the number of retirement living properties in offer. And to do this, we think that it's really important to have a clear vision of what retirement living actually is and what it means both to us, but also what it means to residents. So we'll be working with residents on helping us to capture that. We're very conscious that not everyone knows what retirement living is. And we think that by putting together this clear vision, we'll be able to work better with local authorities and identify opportunities for growth. As well as grow, we also want to prepare for the future. We're very conscious that we're living in a rapidly changing world, and we want to make sure that the retirement living offer that we have now, but also for the future, will be fit for purpose. So we want to create a sustainable future, and we want to create an innovative one. And I knew I'd never get that word right, to create the innovative future. So that means that we have to do research, we have to learn from others, we have to speak to potential residents, those who'll be coming to join us in the future, as to what their needs will be. But as well as concentrating on the future, we also need to have a look at what's actually happening now. And we're noticing that we're finding that we've seen an increase in residents with complex needs. And it's important that we're able to support those those residents with those needs, but also that we're able to ensure the well-being and the quality of life for everybody that lives in our properties. So to do that, we need to make sure that our employees are supported. And that quite neatly brings us into our last key area, which is about investing in our employees. And we want to ensure that our employees are well trained, that they're developed, that they're able to do the role that we want them to do, that we will invest in leadership, and that we will be able to unlock potential. And by doing all of that, then we believe that we'll be able to provide a quality and consistent service for all of our residents. So that's it on the strategic priorities for this year. Happy to answer questions on that at the end of the session. But over to Vanessa now.
Thank you, Dawn. Could I have the next slide, please? So I'm here to talk to you about the changes to the Complaints Handling Code, which is governed by the Housing Ombudsman. If you attended one of these sessions a couple of months ago, you will have heard about the new Social Housing Regulation Act that came into effect on the 1st of April this year, which introduced revised consumer standards. So the Housing Ombudsman changes are very much aligned with that in terms of placing the resident more at the heart of everything we do. So as part of that, they've reviewed their current complaints handling code. So I just wanted to whiz through it to draw out what it means for you and any changes that you need to be aware of. So the most significant change is the removal of the informal complaint stage. So that would be when you go to your local housing manager and just mention that something hasn't been done or someone hasn't visited. It'd be logged as an informal complaint, and obviously your local housing manager would seek to resolve it as soon as possible. What we now have is a service request or a stage 1 complaint, both of which must be logged. So if you make a request to your local housing manager and it is the first time you've requested a service or something to be done, then it's a service request. If you've requested for it to be done before and it hasn't been undertaken, then you will be asked whether you want to go into the formal complaints process. Even if you go into the formal complaints process, we will aim to obviously respond to that service request as soon as possible. Going into the complaints process doesn't mean that it will hold anything up. But what our local housing managers must be able to do is to distinguish a service request from a complaint, because we are required to log them and report them both separately to the Housing Ombudsman. In terms of the response times for complaints, we have 5 days to send you a formal acknowledgement if you make a stage 1 complaint. We then have 10 days for us to respond to your stage 1 complaint. We can actually extend this by 10 days, but we would always speak to you about this. So for instance, if someone that was key to the investigation was on holiday or extended sick leave and we needed more time to find something out, then we'd ask you whether we can extend it by 10 days. If you then remain unhappy with our response to your stage 1 complaints, you do have the opportunity to go on to our stage 2 complaint stage, and we have 20 working days to respond to that, and we can extend that by 20 days again due to the very similar circumstances to the stage 1 extension. The Ombudsman is clear that we must make it easy to complain, so hopefully around your schemes you'll find leaflets and posters with details about how to complain on them, and we do encourage complaints. We see them as free lessons and a way to improve our service delivery to you. We don't see them as a negative at all. So in line with these changes, the Ombudsman does have new powers. We must publish our self-assessment against the Complaints Handling Code by June. So we've recently looked at that. I'm pleased to say that we are fully compliant with the new Complaints Handling Code, but we do need to make the Ombudsman aware of that. The Ombudsman does have powers to publish further codes of practice should he see should he see fit, if anything arises during the year. And we also need to make sure that we have a much closer working relationship with the regulator. The regulator is working really hard within the social housing sector and identifying trends or issues that all social landlords need to be aware of. So we too need to be aware of all those and make sure that we integrate all of that within our work. Next slide, please. Further changes are previously we had to accept a complaint from 6 months from the date of issue, but now that's extended to 12 months. So even if something happened 12 months ago, you can come to us with a complaint. And actually, that's not a cliff edge. We will look at each complaint on its merits, so that if it's more than 12 months, we will have a look and see if we will put your complaint through our process, and if not, give you a valid reason why that is the case. We also need to look at any reasonable adjustments we need to make, any vulnerabilities, and all of those when we accept a complaint or not. And all of our employees must be able to respond positively to complaints. So we need to have a standard objective for all of our employees so that we're aware of the complaint handling code and how to effectively respond to it, and the residents that are raising any service requests or complaints. Next slide, please. So in terms of what is a complaint, previously we've been able to tweak the definition by the Ombudsman, and we've done that in collaboration with our residents' complaint panel. But this year the Ombudsman is very clear that this is the wording that they want us to use. That's not to say that as residents you have to say the word complaint for it to go to a complaint stage. If you express dissatisfaction, then your local managers or operational managers should ask you if you want to make a complaint. Next slide, please. So quite a busy slide here, but nice picture of a dog. So just a bit of a RAG rating, so a red, amber, green rating in terms of what's changed or what hasn't changed for you. So I won't go through them all, but there's a greater emphasis on the service request definition. So we need to ensure that all of our employees have a greater understanding of that. I've spoken about the timescale that you have for raising a complaint for us, so that's been extended from 6 months to 12 months. I've spoken about the removal of the informal stage, so what was an informal stage is now effectively either a service request or a stage 1 entry into the formal complaints process. I've spoken about extensions to response timescales. The Ombudsman actually says that we can extend those timescales without residents' permission, but we're not adopting that. We always want to seek residents' permission and speak to you about that. And then we need to do some changes in our internal processes just so that we're keeping all the records we need to keep to remain compliant with the code. Next slide, please. So I've already spoken about this, but it's where we are putting a great deal of emphasis. And what I will repeat again is if you ask for something to be done, it's not done and it becomes a complaint, that then does not stop your service request from going forward. And we really want to keep that ethos of trying to put something right as soon as we can at a local level. So that's just a little bit of a reassurance about that. And also to say, although we're saying once you've made a service request at least once, 2, 3 times becomes a complaint. However, if you don't want to go into the complaint process, you don't have to. It's not mandatory, but that's just an option that you have to go down that line. Next slide, please. So just moving on slightly from complaints. I don't know if you're all aware, but we have residents on our board. So our board is a group of people that shape the services that we offer at Housing 21, and we have board members with a wide variety of experience from a housing background, law background, care background. And so we are looking for a couple of new resident board members. You don't need any previous experience. Just as it says there, a passion for our purpose, what we stand for at Housing 21, and a willingness to learn and the confidence to contribute within the meetings, talking about all aspects of our service. So the deadline for applications, if you are interested in joining the board, and it is accompanied by remuneration. The deadline is Friday the 14th of June, and you can find out more details on our website or speak to your local manager. The website address is there at the bottom of the slide, housing21.org.uk. So a bit of a plug there if you'd like to come and help us shape the services that you offer and have your voice here at board level. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you. Next slide, please. So now we're on to the questions. Thank you all very much for listening, and I think I'm passing over to Richard for questions.
What's the easiest way to make a complaint, Vanessa?
Thank you, Richard. So I think the first thing to say is that either a resident or an advocate working on the resident's behalf can make a complaint, and there are a number of ways. Firstly, to your local scheme manager. They're on your site, you can speak to them. You can call our complaints line. The number is on the website, but it's 0303 123 1622. You can write to us at our head office, so Housing 21 complaints at our head office on Hagley Road in Birmingham. Again, the address is on the website. You can email us at feedback@housing21.org.uk, or you can put a comment on social media, which will be picked up. You probably will throughout the year receive certain surveys, such as the resident survey, and that is not a way to complain. We do put the Ombudsman details on there so that you have those details should you wish to go to the Ombudsman, but anything that is written as a potential complaint on that survey can't be picked up just to the sheer volume that we get from those. So it's easier just to refer to the website or speak to your scheme manager who's got all of those details. Thank you.
Okay, back to me. That's exhausted all the questions. So shall I hand back to you, Vanessa, to close the meeting?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Richard. So thank you all that have attended today. It's really great to see so many of you, and we hope you value these sessions. If there's anyone that couldn't make it, we do actually put the sessions online, and they'll be published in the next resident newsletter for you to catch up. Similarly, if you've got any suggestions of anything you want us to cover, then please let your scheme manager know, and they can let us know, or if you email the resident engagement email address, which you'll find on the newsletter as well, then we'll be more than happy to cover anything of interest to you. So thanks again for listening, and thank you to my colleagues Dawn and Richard for participating with me. Thank you.
Bye.